I will tell you some of these, I love doing this podcast. I love doing Here's What We Know. And a lot of them I do because I think they're interesting. And some I do simply because I want to. And this is one of those that I want to. I have been a Lacy J. Dalton fan since I started. I started in this business a long time ago, back in 1976.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's before I started.
Absolutely.
Well, at least on any kind of national level.
Well, and I remember because when you came out, and I remember Crazy Blue Eyes, but I remember Black Coffee. And I'm like, there was nothing that sounded like that at the time. You realize it, right?
We did realize that. Even Stevens and Hillary Kanter were friends of mine. We were writing together at the time. And I don't know if you know about but Even wrote a lot of the big hits that Eddie Rabbitt had. Driving My Life Away, In Love with a Beautiful Woman, Crazy in Love for Kenny Rogers. He could probably paper his entire house in BMI awards for million airplay songs. But I was so cold at that point. It must have been about 1991 or something. Mm-hmm. And I had been off. I hadn't recorded for 4 years. And then I was recording with Jimmy Bowen, who kept putting me on his boutique labels. And as soon as we would make a record, he would leave that label and go to head up another boutique label. And he would take me with him, and the record got left behind. And there are like 4 whole sets of music that no one has ever heard because they just got left behind. And when the record company president leaves and he's the guy that produced it, nobody's there to promote it. So I'd been in this long, cold period, and Even came to me with the song Black Coffee, and he said, "You need to do this song." And I said, "You know what, Even?" I said, "This is a perfect song for Roseanne Cash. It will take her to the absolute top." And he said, "Well, I want you to do it." And so we did it, and then we had a hell of a time. Bowen thought I was too old and he shouldn't promote me, that I was over the hill and I wasn't cute enough and all this stuff. And he wasn't going to give me a video, so we had to fight like hell to get a video for it. Then he gave us a tiny little budget. And fortunately, the people that made the video were fans. And so they did this great video for it. Mm-hmm. And that record, when it first came out, it outsold 2 really huge stars. Like one of them was Michael Bolton's record that came out at the same time. And I think the other one was, I'm probably not going to remember, but it outsold everybody for the first couple of months that it was out. And finally, Bowen decided, okay, well, maybe we should give this poor thing a hit, and allowed it to happen. And, it went on to become a #1 dance hit in just about every country in the world. It became a very big song, but, it wasn't, I kept telling Even, I kept saying, they're not going to promote this the way this thing needs to be promoted. He said, it'll promote itself. I said, you need to get it to Tina Turner. And I bugged him and bugged him and bugged him. And he finally got it to Tina Turner, but he changed it. He changed it to an R&B song. So he took out the dum da dum da 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 dum da da da.
The percolating.
And he took out the Black Coffee percolating part. And I said, Even, what were you thinking? He said, well, it was Tina Turner. I said, can you imagine Black Coffee, Blue? I mean, sure, it would have been great. It would still be. I mean, it's like, just a great song. I love the song. It's a very pleasant song to sing year after year. You don't get sick of it. And it's not hard to sing. It's an easy song to sing. And Even songs are kind of like that. He and Hillary Kanter wrote this song, and Hillary and I have about the same, we sing in about the same register. So we did a lot of singing together, and she's a fabulous singer and fabulous songwriter.
Well, here's my thing. Couple of takes. Me, the expert in all things musical.
Well, 1976.
Well, like I said, when I first heard it, and I was a kid at the time, but I was like, this doesn't sound like anything else. And you know why I think the song stands first of all, they were right. You were the one to sing it. I mean, I know you're saying wonderful things about Roseanne Cash, and I love Roseanne Cash, but your voice, you caught the desperation of the sadness. because it's trying.
I'm good at desperation, Gary.
Yeah, well, but I'm just saying, it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do. I love Dolly Parton to death, but she doesn't get the desperation of sadness. I mean, she does a gazillion other things. I'm not dissing Dolly, but I'm just saying what you do in that song, and it would have been so easy to try to oversing it, and you would have missed. And it took somebody who really knew how to sing not to oversing it. Do you understand? I mean, it's like Laurence Olivier in acting. He doesn't go, everything's very small.
Well, that's a lovely compliment. Thank you. I appreciate that. But I did really want to hear Tina Turner, Black Coffee.
I completely get it. I think Tina, but the fact that they would take out, a thing, Black Coffee, the perfect thing was the percolating.
What were you thinking? He's so fun. Even's an alien. He's not from this world.
Creative people who can write songs. And I've said this before, I've had a number of songwriters on the show, and I love them. I think the idea, and I said, what you guys and girls can do is you grab smoke and show it to us, which is amazing to me.
What a beautiful way to put it.
And it's capturing these and hearing the whole different processes and even Stevens and those and Willie Nelson. It's another one of the reasons I'm a big fan of Luke, because you work with everybody. You came into outlaw country, right? You're right there in that sweet spot. And Willie loved you. George Jones loved you. Merle Haggard loved you. And the fact that the record companies kept bringing you with, that doesn't happen anymore.
The record companies didn't love me.
But I'm just saying,
Jimmy Bowen told everybody I was too old, but
the fact that they would keep taking you places, right? I mean, you said it yourself. The guy would go. I mean, that stopped in 2003. They were looking for reasons to get rid of you. Anybody, didn't matter. And now today, you could be signed at 10. Well, yeah, you could be signed at 10 and be let go at 4:30. I mean, that's the music today. And I'm not criticizing.
Do you know what hurts me about that?
What's
Back
that?
when I actually got my record deal, they actually did try to do some development with you. We were kind of past the point where they actually did it well, but they did try to help. They would say, really, do you have to wear those polyester pants? Nobody wears polyester pants. It was like they would actually give you pointers. But now you come in, you have to have maybe $100,000 or $200,000 behind you to begin with. You have to have made your own record at home and sold 100,000 copies of it or something. It's very, very, very competitive. And also it's fickle. In the old days, the fans stayed with you forever. And the fact that I can still work is a testament to the fact that those country fans will stay with you. They told me that Billy Sherrill, who was the greatest producer I ever worked with, he said, you will always, for the rest of your life, if you make nothing else, you'll be able to make $50,000 a year, no matter how old you get. You'll be able to do that. Well, I've done a little better than that,
Amen.
But I had some wonderful help. I mean, I've had some wonderful producers, great producers.
Well, and here's me being a fan. They're great producers. I completely agree with that, but you gave them so much to work with.
Oh, how
you weren't. But it's true. I mean, the fact that you're still here, you sound great. The fact that you had that career and the length of it, and people were just drawn to you, And as I get to spend time with you, I understand the personality of it because you're just delightful. You are. You're just delightful, But no.
We're going to have to get the jaws of life to get me out of this room.
Well, I'm just saying, there's some people that you would love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with. You and I have been doing this long enough, and there's people that I would rather not have a cup of coffee with.
I know a number of those people.
Yeah, and I can enjoy them. I can play their songs, and if they said, "Hey, do you want to get a cup of coffee?" I go, I'm kind of busy. I've got this, my son's got a basketball practice,
Oh, look at the time.
yeah, but you are not that way. You would be something that, and it's just, and all the things that you did and the things that you had going. I think that's why everybody they just, here's one of those things. When I say Lacy J. Dalton, when I say it to people, who enjoyed the music of the time, and you say Lacy J. Dalton, nobody ever rolls their eyes. Nobody goes, oh,
Well, that's probably because they don't know who the hell I am.
No, they do know who you are. When I sit back and go Black Coffee, when I say Boys on 16th Avenue, when I say Crazy Blue Eyes, they know exactly who I am. Underrated songs, George Jones, the size 7 round.
Size 7 round and made 'em go. Singing harmony with George Jones was like riding a what do you call it?
Roller coaster?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm at that point where you search for words that you know, but you can't find it.
There's a reason.
It's sad.
No, listen. I talked because I did this on my radio show. They did a study, right? They did a study because we all do that, right? That we'll sit back and we'll go, oh, this me. I'll go, this thing I talk into. This. And
isn't that weird?
Because your brain will get rid of words that it knows. True. Because it's sooner or later.
Great things are the problem. They're like alien beings in our head.
Listen, growing old is a challenge and it's a blessing every day that I wake up every day and I'm still here. You and I both have had too many friends that we've lost. Right. And so, but now there's a scientific reason that they did this 2-year study and they found out once you get to a certain age, this is a pen. It is. So your brain is not going to keep it on the front of your brain because, somebody will tell you what it is.
And we are deletion creatures, particularly me. But, I was complaining to my longest friend. We've been friends since we were 7. And I don't want to even tell you how long that's been.
Isn't it wonderful to have a friend like that, though?
Oh, it's so great. But we're both a little demented at this point. And I said to her, I said, we're slipping. And she said, what are you talking about? You've been this way since you were 8 years old.
Well, you did. I mean, we all did. I mean, I was just as forgetful at 22 as I was now. I mean, but it's just we cover it up because we talk so much faster.
Is that the ticket?
When you're 22, remember how fast you talked when you were 20 in your 20s?
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think
and now
old people to me, I'll never forget the worst experience of my life. I went to the Apple store. And the kids were talking to me. Every S sentence ends on a high note. And I'm going, I think I'm going crazy. I can't keep up with, I can't understand what they're saying. They're talking so fast. I really can't understand. I vowed I'll never go to another Apple store for help as long as I have to go to the senior center where I belong. These are my people now.
You know what they've started doing, especially here in Silicon Valley, and you know it well, spending so much time in Santa Cruz, they've started hiring older people because they had a lot of people doing that. Because the kids can't, I don't know when
to help. They know.
When they started changing the way they speak, and I guess every generation does it. And the thing they do now, if there's a T in the middle of the word, they drop it. So instead of important,
there's a T at the end of the word, they drop it, Gary.
Yeah, but I'm saying that stuff that's a Southern thing, right? We're going to go, it has bad portent or something like that. Or we're going to, something. But now if it's like important, now you listen to the kids and they'll go important.
Yeah.
They'll go mountain.
Yeah. Mountain.
And so our brains go, wait, what? And we miss the next 6 words because our brains are going, isn't there a T in mountain?
Used to be. Used to be. T. Time and again, a hillbilly remembered a T in the word mountain. Anyway.
So because you got to work with everyone, you brought up George Jones. I mean, George was and I'll be charitable. He was mercurial at best.
Well, there were several of him.
Okay, that might be the single best answer I've ever had, right there.
But you know, Gary, he was a sweet person.
Mm-hmm.
George Jones, when he wasn't completely inebriated out of his gourd, was a very kind person. He kind of looked after you when he wasn't out of his mind, but when he was out of his mind, that he was, he did have a tendency to drink a little more than was probably good for George.
Was humanly possible.
Well, yes. I saw his liver once. It was walking out the hotel door with its bag in its hand, thumbing its toes.
I think, and because you knew these people, here's my thing. I think George Jones knew he was George Jones, but I don't think he ever truly believed he was as good as people told him he was. You know it. And I could be wrong. And here's what you need to know about me, Lacy. It does not hurt my feelings if I'm wrong and you tell me I'm wrong. Okay? So you need to know that. So if I'm ever wrong on something, go, no, that's wrong.
Well, I wouldn't be a person to tell you whether that was incorrect or correct. But I will tell you that when you met Willie Nelson, Willie knows who he is. He absolutely knows who he is. Merle Haggard absolutely knew. He absolutely knew who he was. And there's something about, I wrote a song about it. It's called You Can Tell an Old Soldier by the Look in His Eyes. It's almost like some of us attain some kind of a consciousness of being very solidly and comfortably who we are. And it may be that we may not be the most ordinary people. We may be different in a lot of ways. We may drink too much sometimes. We may do drugs too much sometimes. We may be just out of our minds sometimes. But there are people that I've worked with, some of the greats that I've worked with, some of them didn't know who they were, but some of them did. And the Outlaws were more like that than any of the other performers that I've ever worked with. They really knew who they were. And that's a very comfortable, it's a comfortable thing to be around. But if they stare at you in the wrong way, you can tell they're looking right through you and they know exactly where you're at. And it's kind of an uncanny and kind of wonderful feeling because, both of the men I'm talking about, Willie and Merle. Now, George, George was so mercurial. You didn't know from one time to the next whether he was going to be that incredibly kind, very sweet, simple, humble person, or he was going to be, he was fun when he was drinking. He just talked all the time. I think he had ADD or something, but it was amazing to be around when you're around one of those performers who absolutely, Bobby Bear is one of them.
Bobby Bear, there's a fun name.
Bobby Bear, who was the first person I ever toured with, who was unbelievably kind to me and really the original outlaw. He is still something to this day. He knows who he is.
Isn't it amazing that Bobby and Willie are both still here?
Yes. And I just saw a picture of Bobby the other day, and I had heard that he hadn't been feeling well, but he looked great. I don't know if I can say the same for Willie. The last time I picture of Willie, it looked like, okay.
Willie, I had Willie on my radio show. He was here doing a benefit. And this was probably about, 8 years ago, right? And this was, and somehow they got Willie to call at 8:30 in the morning, which I thought was amazing. That, but he would still, it was a time where he would still get up and play a little golf. He'd play, 9 holes. But he called, and it was so funny because he was Willie Nelson. He was high as a kite and probably hearing every sixth word I said. He felt like, I'm sure he thought that was you and me at the Apple store, right? I'm sure he was going, what did he just say? What was that about? And it did not bother me at all because I was like, if you get a chance to talk to Willie Nelson and he's not high, I think you'll be a little disappointed.
Well, I never could tell whether he was or he wasn't. I mean, he always seemed like the same guy to me. Willie is. Have you read The Tao of Willie?
The Tao of Willie.
The Tao of Willie, or The Tao of Willie.
Yeah.
It is an excellent book. He's a very spiritual guy.
Yeah.
And he's a very down to earth guy. And that book is absolutely worth a read. He wrote it. It's funny. And he had a co-writer who was his good friend, and Pippin, I think his name was, his last name. But that book it's a beautiful philosophy. And I always got that feeling from Willie, a lot of pretty calm energy around him. He's had a lot of other ways of being as well, but always around me, very calm.
I think it's very interesting that if you look back on every era, and this is just my supposition, and I told this to Garth Brooks one time. I said, Garth, I think the most important thing you ever did is you taught now going on 3 generations of singers how you can survive in this business. How you could treat people, how you don't do the runaround, you don't go crazy, you treat your fans, make it about them. And when you brought up Willie and Waylon and what you just said, because I'd throw Waylon in there because you talked about the Outlaws and Merle, I think they taught people like you to be you, right? To have that, okay, I'm right here, because there was a time in the 70s where you weren't you. I mean, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the singers. You know what I'm saying? Where they would just create groups like Dave and Sugar, right? And they were interchangeable, but you and I think that's what Willie and Waylon and Merle taught you is you got to figure out who you are. And that's why you singing Black Coffee or Boys of 16th Avenue. I mean, you're just so damn believable. Does that make sense?
It's a great compliment to me, and I appreciate it, because I've always tried to bring as much of my authentic self to my singing and to my performing as I can. They always, a lot of my friends would say, oh, no, I remember Mickey Gilley saying to me, he'd say, Mickey Gilley is a construct. I put Mickey Gilley out there. Mickey Gilley, he talked about himself in the third person a lot. A lot of performers do that. I don't do that. When I'm there, I want to be 100% there with you. But it's not about, stardom was never the thing for me. It's about the kind of communication that you can have with an audience that will uplift you and uplift them, and where people can feel some joy and feel some connection and get some inspiration to keep going. This is not an easy world to live in. I don't know what to compare it to, but other planets that I've lived on aren't quite this hard. But anyway, this is a difficult place. I believe it's school. I think we're here to learn lessons. I don't think we do this just once. I think we come back time after time, and we decide what we're going to do with Creator before we come in. I'm going to learn this and this and this and this. I'm going to learn how to walk my talk this time. I'm going to walk my talk with integrity. I'm going to walk my talk with power. And those are the kinds of things that interest me. Those are the kind of things I write about. And that's how when I'm gone from this world, I hope they will say that I did walk my talk, because my word is very important to me. If I say to you that I'm going to do something or going to be somewhere, and I think that's really important. I think that's probably one of the most important things we can do while we're here, is to try to be true to ourselves and to be authentic with other people as well, and not feign affection, and not be phony, and not. What I really hate is networking. When people say, well, I'm networking, I'm just at this party so I can network. And I think, why don't you be at this party so you can see who you can actually interact with and have a meaningful conversation with, or some kind of a meaningful relationship with? And so the music is actually a tool for me. And people, I absolutely hate this when I say it in interviews, but I'm going to say it to you, Gary, because a lot of times it's not so much about the music. It's using the music to connect with the people. And I don't think you've ever have you ever been to one of my shows?
No, I saw you, gosh, it had to be back in 2000, but they were like, you were with somebody. You were like there was David Frizzell and those guys. And so you were doing those. I saw you in that, a ballroom and
That
you
was
got
probably horrible.
but it was so much fun because it was like,
Was it?
it still, and I was there to see you because I'd been such a fan. Like I told you, I can't overstate how much black coffee rocked my world. I just can't.
Well, I can't tell you how much it rocked my world. I was so grateful to Even and Hillary for that song, and I still am. It was so funny. I did a songwriter showcase down in Texas a year or two ago, and I was playing songs that people hadn't heard before. And these people in Texas had no idea who I was. And finally, the host of the show said to me, the people were actually leaving after the show, and we'd raised a lot of money for a boys' camp down there, about $100,000. There were 4 of us writers. And the host said to me, he said to the audience, he said, wait a minute, wait. And so they stopped. And he said, now sing 16th Avenue and Black Coffee. And I did. And it was amazing what happened. Then people knew, that's who you are. We know who you are now. But it wasn't that they weren't connecting during the show, but they really connected once they knew, that those were the songs that I sang.
See, because you're a pro's pro. I mean, that's, and I completely believe that. I could go and see you play, and I'd be disappointed if you didn't play those songs, but I'd still love it. I'd still love to see how you perform and create. And that's the thing. I want to pick up. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back because I want to pick up this one thing and ask a question to Lacy J. Dalton because I just think because she's one of the few people who can answer it. So we'll be right back.
I want to tell you why I am all in on Bison Junk. First and foremost, they are a full-service, eco-friendly junk removal company, but with this difference, they focus on recycling and donating usable goods. Their customer service sets them apart, and they pride themselves on their integrity. They'll show up when they say they will, and they'll do what they promise. If you have hard-to-remove items like hot tubs or large furniture, they figure it out so you don't have to. They want to be who you always come back to when it's time to declutter and organize your home or business. They're worth every penny at bisonjunk.com.
So here's my thing, Lacy J. 99% of us will never know what it's like to have an audience sing with you or sing your song back to. What is that like?
That's the best thing in the whole world. That's the best thing in the whole world. It's just wonderful. And particularly, if you've written the song, if it's one you've written, it really, it's just the best feeling in the whole world because you've connected with people with something that you're saying that they can connect with. And that's, the connection is really what it's all about. It really, truly is. You can have all kinds of money and fame and power, and that's great. But the connection that you have with an audience when you really connect with them, that's really where it is. That's really that's why, I think that's why a lot of us do it. And I know it's why a lot of songwriters do it. Songwriters tend to be, by the way, we are doing a wonderful thing for some of the great songwriters and singers down in Santa Cruz. We're putting on a benefit. And we have I think we have 35 of the really best talent in Santa Cruz County, and who've grown up in Santa Cruz and been musicians in Santa Cruz for years and years. We're doing a benefit for 2 of our friends who are wonderful artists who've been there for 40 years. A man named Jimmy Jackson and his wife, Ellen O'Hanlon, and they're both having health challenges that are expensive. And need some help with that. So we're all going to be there, 35 of us.
35.
35.
Wow.
We're going to start, and I'm going to start the show at 3 in the afternoon. And the reason I'm going to do that is because, well, she did this show and she put me on first when nobody was there. Okay, fine. I'm going on first. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't care if there are 3 people there. We're gonna start the thing at 3 o'clock and we're gonna play music till the hogs come home.
Well, good. Then I'll be there at 3 o'clock and I get to leave early. After about 6 o'clock, then I'll be like, okay, I've seen everybody I want to see, so I'm going from there.
That is a great place to see a show. It's a small place. And all of these artists, we're going to do 2 or 3 songs a piece. The larger bands will do half an hour. But we have some of I think the top musicians in Santa Cruz that I've ever played with are going to be there. Some of the very best cannot be there because they are having friends who are having health challenges as we speak and can't make it for that reason. And I will miss them terribly, but almost everyone else, all the musicians that I respect and have played with over the years, will be there. And some new people that I've just met will be there. We have a huge, wonderful lineup. I would love to be able to tell you everybody who's going to be there.
I've never heard of that many people at a songwriters thing. That's amazing. That's wonderful.
Well, a lot of them are songwriters. Most of them are songwriters and singers, and most of them have bands that have been around Santa Cruz and San Jose and the Bay Area for years and years and years. And I'm so looking forward to this. We're lucky because we have probably the greatest stage manager in the world, Dennis Scrimo, who's been with Bonnie Raitt and Jackson Browne for years and years. And the people at Moe's are just being great. They're helping us so much with this benefit. Anyway, I wanted to talk about that because it's going to be like old home week. It's going to be like old home week. I get to see all my old friends. And, I don't live in Santa Cruz anymore, but the best part of my life I spent in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and I loved it there.
It's, they had, as we record this, they had those big storms in Santa Cruz and Capitola a couple of weeks ago. And so Del Mar, that area, they had a lot of flooding. So we always pull for our friends down there because they live in the place we all wish we did.
Have you ever lived over there?
No. Here's the truth.
It's so
Back
great.
in like 1996, I looked at a house like 3 blocks off the beach, but they wanted $500,000 for it, right? Back in,
I totally.
You could have sold it for $8 million now, if I would have just had the temerity to pull the trigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it probably is worth 10 times that.
I have to. Did I mention I have an 11 and 13-year-old? In fact,
I wish I did.
Well, if you need to borrow mine, I can send them over. I mean,
one at a time. I definitely.
That's what tomorrow, my wife and I, we were on the plane today coming back from seeing our friends, and we're trying to schedule out the practices and the games that we have coming up this weekend. It's like, all right, you take this one and I'm going to that one. And, so it's.
Are your girls in sports, Gary?
I have 2 boys. And yes.
I thought you said that. Well,
no, I have 2 boys, and yes, they both play basketball, and one plays baseball, and they're both in theater. They're fantastically talented, and yes, they're my children, but they've already surpassed whatever I could do.
Well, that is incredible. That's incredible. I don't have nearly as much pity for you though as I did when I thought they were girls.
As I always remind everybody,
girls really turn sour. They hate their parents.
Here's what you need to know: I have 4 sisters.
Oh well, then estrogen poisoning. It's a good thing you had boys.
I was all prepared to have girls because if they gave me problems, I would send them to my sisters and go, if you don't like my life, if you don't like my rules, go check out Aunt Barbara. See how that works for you. And if that doesn't work, she'll send you to Aunt Linda. And if she sends you to Aunt Judy, but when you go to Aunt Mahaley, life is over. I'm just telling you right now.
That's fun.
It's been fun. Well, listen, I will wrap this up with only the promise that you'll do this with me again.
Now, Gary, I would love to. I've enjoyed talking with you so much. You're so much fun. And we had fun on the phone when we talked together. It was great.
I
And
still have so many things. I want to talk to you about the songwriting process. I want to see how you do it. Everybody has their own unique way. So in our part 2, we're going to get into the nitty gritty and the nuts and bolts of songwriting.
all right, we can do this. I'm going to sing my new single, which is called The Devil by a Different Name.
I know Devil by a Different Name. I
Did
know
you?
it very well. You sent it to me when you were, and we played it, and I listened to it.
Well, I hope that it made sense to you, because it's how I feel about a lot of stuff that's happening right now. I feel like we need to look at some of the stuff that's happening right now. We need to look at what we're doing. Just look at this. Have a look at that. You sure that's the way you want to do that? You know?
I completely agree, and that's my thing is don't pick a side. Look at both sides. Look for reality. You know, your side's got just as many problems as the other side has, and the truth of it is, we need each other. We just need each other.
We truly do, and we need to learn how to build bridges. We need to learn how to build bridges, meet in the middle, and listen to each other. I think that's where we've gotten lost. We're not good listeners. I'm trying to be a better listener, but I just can't stop talking more.
You know, I always tell everybody, the truth of it is, when I get in a political debate with you, and I've explained this to my sons too, I said, here's the secret. You want to know the secret? I am secretly rooting for you. Because if you win the debate, if you win the conversation, and I don't mean dunking, I'm talking about if you tell me something that makes me reconsider what I'm thinking, that means I've learned something. If I quote, win, I haven't learned a damn thing. So I'm pulling for you.
Do you know what? That's advice. That could be a very good song. A complicated song to write, but it's the kind of subject that I like to write about.
Please take it and run with it. And I will, send it to me and I'll play it. I promise you I will.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You will. You know, the thing about it is now is your to-do list comes up on your phone. So my wife, that's a picture of my wife and family. My wife will just add things. So I'll get up in the morning and look at my phone and you're like, whoa, I thought this was a non-busy day.
It sounds like you have a good, organized, administratively capable wife.
Oh, my goodness. I always tell everybody, if you get a chance to marry my wife, you should. She's amazing. She's amazing.
That's what I say about my manager, Leslie. You know, I said, when she's done, I'm done.
I always kid her, you know, because she'll sit back and she'll say something, and I'm like, you know, that's the next husband. I mean, I'm gonna, you know, because both of her grandparents lived till they were 100, and I'm like, so you know, I'm hanging in here. I got you the house, I got you the kids, and when it's my time to go, I only have one rule: you can't bring a date to the funeral. That's the only rule I have. They can be waiting for you for brunch, they can, but just don't bring them to the funeral.
Oh, Gary. Oh, how fun you are. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and I look forward to having you back.
Well, thank you. We will, I'll have Leslie, my administrative person, get in touch with you about that, Gary. And in the meantime, you and your listeners have a beautiful year, and let's all learn to listen better to the people on the other side.